as we start, we're jumping right into purpose that follows through after identity, because without identity, you do not know what you're really called to do. So I wanted to jump in. How was this week after identity and that episode that we launched last week? How has God been walking out your purpose and your calling for today?
Me?
Yes.
Here I am. It's funny. We were just talking about this, and I think purpose is always an interesting thing, because a lot of people, that's kind of like what you feel like your whole life. What is my purpose? And what are those things? And so ironically, we film these, if you don't know, we film them mostly on Wednesdays and some days, other days, just depends on what works for the week. But, it's easy that the enemy comes after identity, especially when you start speaking out loud about it, especially when you're about to post an episode about identity, and how he will attack it over and over again. And it's no wonder the Lord calls us to have an armor set up every day, have his armor on us, have the word of God as like a sword, and also just being confident and assured in who he has made us to be. Because when you do get attacked, you have to stand in your true identity more and more in order to be like, no, that's a lie, and clearly say it. So of course that happened really hard last week, and an attack has been nonstop on myself, my identity, and who I am as a person. So it can make you question then your purpose. If you question your identity, it's often you question your purpose, because they do go hand in hand. But a lot of times the Lord uses our pain to move into our purpose. So I do believe, even why we're sitting here today is a lot of that. Mm-hmm. What about you? What about you this past week?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that I realized too, when you know who you are, that's great. There's confidence in that. That's your shield. That's your protection, just like you just said. But what I always thought was, well, great, I have this gift, I have this calling on my life that God usually shares with you when you're intimate with him. And he'll give you a vision, but he won't give you a plan yet. And so he takes you back to really knowing him, and he prepares you for what's ahead. And so we want to jump right into it, into purpose. And so a lot of the last few months is like, wait, like, what's the strategy? What's my plan? What's this? What's that? And I want to go back to my old self and do. And yet he's like, no. This purpose doesn't have, it's not effort. It's not you striving. It's not you turning back to your old ways. It's you in a rest. And it's an arrest that is in my mind, and it's in my heart. And so it kind of goes back to the identity of like, no, I am his. He has a plan for me. He knows what I need. He knows when I need it. He knows it way more than I can even plan out and do and facilitate and make happen. And then all of a sudden it's sitting in that idea of it. He is preparing me for what is ahead. So when it comes, I'm ready for it. And so one of those things is, yes, this podcast. Like, if I wasn't able to hear him, or if I wasn't able to experience him in this intimate relationship where I draw near to him in the secret place, there are many times that I am going through my own effort. And in that effort, it's me, sinful Melissa, like striving. And he was like, I prepared you to learn how to do this because now you need it. And now you're drawn to it. And without it, you don't know what. Like, you can just like walk in that purpose and in that calling without anything more, without all the things that you felt like you had to do. And so he kind of taught me that a lot this week, where in different ways, different moments, and even the lack of. So I went to the gym early, bright and early, with Lawson over here, and it was great. It was It was early, it was good, knocked it out. But I realized that day I didn't get that secret place, quiet time, that like drawn out and just still and just like laying out all my worries and cares before him. And all of a sudden, when I was in my calling of coaching, I'm sitting there exhausted. I'm in my striving mode. I'm in the, like somebody who I'm not. Like I just was carrying all these worries and fears. Like, did I prepare right for them? Did I do this right? And all of a sudden he was like, it's okay to still talk to me throughout the day. It just looks different today. I'm like, okay, you're right. I was going right back to old self in the weariness. And he's like, when you're weary, come to me and I will give you strength. So it was like one of those little moments where he had to remind me, like, we're walking this journey together. When you invite me in, you are denying yourself, your flesh, and you're walking in the spirit. And to me, that's how purpose comes, is like through that, the spirit of dying to yourself and walking out who he is and what he wants for his children.
Yeah, I think when you're walking out your identity, like your identity is found in him, and then in turn, he like gives back out our purpose. And it's so throughout the Bible, so many verses talking about how he's made plans for us and he's determined things for us that we get to have and purpose, in our lives. And it's easy. It's no wonder that I feel like the attack is always on identity first, because if we can stumble on that and lose confidence or come into agreement against our true identity, have false identity, then we have stumble into our purpose. Like we stumble around our purpose. Sometimes we miss the path of purpose because we're not confident enough to say, you know what, I can do that because God made me do this. It's not on me, it's on him. And he called me to do it. So if he's going to do it, he's going to make everything happen. And that's why last week was kind of a really challenging moment. A word was given to me to build my confidence up. I know the Lord to just see me and remind me that as people, we will be hated because we love Jesus. But he was hated first, and he still loved people. So it's not about, not giving love or forgiveness to people who hate, but you cannot take words on this earth into consideration when it comes to identity, if your source is just through Jesus and to what he says you are. So when I had this really rough hour of like torment on my identity, on my purpose, it did make me question, why am I doing this? Why do I put myself out there to be judged or criticized, or I don't do it right, or do it right for the people who want to hear it. And he just reminded me of the word he gave me of saying, you won't be liked. I never said you would be, but you have to just listen to my voice and mute the other voices. And it's okay. You're going to be unliked. A really good friend of mine today reminded me that people, because I said I'm an espresso shot for people. A lot of people like a cup of tea, but I come in hot.
That's solid.
I get a job done, when it comes in. But it could be intense for people who are used to a cup of tea. And I said that to her, and she goes, Chelsea, when has any woman in the Bible been a cup of tea? Deborah, Esther, even Mary. You can look at Mary, Martha, they were vocal, they were loud, they were, against the culture. Because the culture is even stronger in Middle East, Israel, about women. And they stood up and they stood strong because they were standing up in who God called them to be, and they didn't care what that meant. They even to the extent of giving their lives potentially. And so she reminded me that, she's like, be the espresso shot, because that's what God has made you to be. And even though it might be too intense for some people, that's not your problem. You just have to keep walking in where God's calling you to. And it was just a good reminder that no matter what, could be the loneliest person on this earth. But if I am sitting with my Father and he has me and he's fighting my battles, it don't matter. And that's what he reminded me last week, is that you know who you are because you're coming to me, I give you strength. I give you rest. Stop overthinking and just sit with me. And I'm just going to keep guiding you. You don't have to figure it all out right now. And that's what's hard about purpose, because in our society, we start really young. Well, what are you going to do when you grow up? Like my kid who's 4 is getting asked that. It's really cute. Now he wants to be a doctor. Before he just wanted.
That's good.
I know. He wanted to be 5. And now he's 4. He wanted to be 5. I was like, no, you could be something. He's like, 5. I just want to be 5. And I love how simple he is in that way. And then through school, he learned about doctor and vet, and every kid wants to be a vet at some point in their life. But it just made me think like how young the world asks, like, who are you and what do you want to do? And I think it's interesting to constantly feel that pressure going into high school. You experience it with your, not just your kids also, but you're a coach. You see the pressure of life, of family, getting into college, finding your major, finding a good job, finding a good internship, whatever it is. And your like vocation and your purpose are different than your career sometimes. And so I think that it's in our hearts, and we just kind of pivot off that path and worry too much about what our job's going to be in life instead of what's our calling. Mm-hmm. And that's what purpose drives, is the calling God has for you. And it's stronger and it's more fulfilling than any job would ever be.
So good. I think about what we tell our kids, and it's like, no, you stand strong. You be a warrior. You stand against the crowd. If people are offering you alcohol and drugs, you say no. You tell them this from a young age. And yet, are we just falling to the same patterns of the world because that's what we're given in a different way? Yes, maybe not drugs and alcohol, but maybe it's, oh, you are supposed to work as a woman. You're supposed to help. You're supposed to carry all these other aspects. I remember when Riley was in she was in third grade. Third grade, it was COVID. Hudson was in first grade and Aiden was pre-K 4. I saw a group of friends of mine that were homeschool parents, and I'm like, they have it so good. They have a home life. They've figured out the role of a mom. Some of them kind of worked a little bit, but little side jobs. And I just thought, wow, their kids are solid. It's going to be so good. This blissful picture of like what life and family could be like. But the back end of my life was, you have to work. You have to provide for your family. You have to support them. You have to be there as much as you can. You have to learn to cook. I hate cooking, but you have to learn how to cook. Like all these things that we were given that women often have to handle. And I had this opportunity to maybe I should just pull them out and homeschool. So I did. Was that a good thing? No. That was definitely not my calling. However, I know that God used it, even if it wasn't necessarily what God called me to, because did I ask him? Not at all. I never did. I just did it. And I just felt this, oh yeah, I'm going to do this. This is way better. And it was COVID. It was all the things you could see and experience with your child. But you're like, okay, let's just do it. And that was the hardest 3 years of my life. And I realized I was not in my calling.
Yeah.
I was not in my purpose. I was carrying a purpose that was not for me. And I learned quickly that no, I'm not drawing you to it, but if you want it bad enough, go. See what happens. I think the Lord will sometimes, he will redirect, but he will also let you go because he's such a good father and he's given us freedom to say, okay, let's try that out.
Yeah, go homeschool, Melissa. How that goes.
Go homeschool. It was the hardest 3 years of my life. I was a mom I never wanted to be. And this is my story. It's not others. I saw the picture of others that were beautiful and wonderful, but my story, that was not how it was. My kids did not really want to do that. We battled all day long as I was also trying to help a team and build a business and have a gym and all these things. And I'm like, why am I carrying all this? I think about that now, but then I was like, no, the busy mom is the right mom. We got this. And it led to so much exhaustion, so many arguments somebody I wasn't, somebody I didn't ever want to be, and realized that was not my hat to wear. It was what I thought I had to be a good mom, or to, walk in a purpose that was more aligned with God. And really the Lord was like, no, stop. And he opened a door when I let go of that idea and realized, okay, this door is a better door. And now we're like thriving. So you realize sometimes, I think, in purpose is that, everyone's doing this. Everyone's working. Everyone is doing this job, or homeschooling, or just being a mom, or just whatever that looks like. But what is God calling you to? And when you draw near to him, he will direct your steps, the Bible says, and he will make it easy, and he will make it so gentle, and you will know, you will like thrive in this. You will feel so excited for it because you're loving his people. And really, that's truly what this is you love the Lord and you love others. And how do you connect what he has only designed you to do to what he has for others to receive?
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I think it's easy, I don't think we touched on this when we told our story, but it's a understanding that, we did say we didn't grow up with a mom in the picture. Mm-hmm. And so having 4 daughters and raising for success did not mean being a stay-at-home mom. So I do think that God pulled, some of us back. Some did not care. They were going to do what they felt called to. Yes. And that was great. And some, you and me, got pulled back real hard into a stillness in motherhood, and how God has shaped and thrown mirrors up with motherhood, and realizing I needed to break things off of me for my children, for our relationship, for their future relationship with also the Lord, and my relationship with the Lord. And in that season, I constantly was like, God, what do you want of me? What have you called me to? What are you calling me to? And he gave me no answers. And there were seasons where I would apply for jobs just because I like working and no door would open. Like, it was almost a testing of like, okay, God, you're very clearly saying you're in a calling right now. And it's not just being a mom. You're raising my children. You are pouring into them. You're telling them things foundationally they need to know. I need, either you're going to teach them or the world's going to teach them. And what's your choice, on that, especially as formative, like younger years. And, it can make people who strive feel like it feels less purposeful, not being out there, sometimes making money in a sense. That was something that was like an indicator of purpose. For me was like, I'm contributing, I'm successful, I am this, that, and the other. And God has pulled back all those lies and revealed them to me. And it's all, again, self-reliance, self-protection, all those things we talked about. But now it's fun. Like you said, it's a free feeling of, I enjoy this. Mm-hmm. I enjoy helping people. I enjoy having conversations around the Word of God, and him revealing things to me that I get to, he'll give me a time to share it. And it's not always in front of a camera. It's sometimes running into somebody at Publix, literally our cart's hit, and God's like, you're going to share this with this person. And I could see it. I could see why he did that, those hidden years of reshaping me in a purpose and a calling. And it can also shift and change. I'm going to be a mother my whole life. That's part of who I am, but it isn't who I am in the grand scheme of identity and purpose. Will I have purpose in my children's life and raising them? Yes, but it's not my only thing. And I think God reminded me about that too, that it's not, this is a season, and then they're going to go to school for a couple hours a day. And what are you going to do at that time? So he was almost preparing me to be in a place to receive that calling. And I think that those seasons can feel very purposeless feeling and make you question a lot of other things. So do you want to jump into how you would see, like, how would somebody find their purpose?
Yeah, that's good. Well, first of all, I would say that it goes from hearing what God's saying about you externally. Like you're writing down these words that you're hearing God say, this is who you are. And you're like, I am not that person. There's no gifting in me. One thing recently that I heard is somebody said, the Lord told me I'm an author. And that hit me. And she was like, I haven't written a book.
Yeah.
And he just said, you're an author. And she's like, I haven't written anything. And he goes, until you switch that idea that you haven't to start declaring, I am an author, then all the things, all these books are going to come flowing through you, or you can one day come to heaven and be like, oh, this is what you could have had. This is the books you could have written, because you're dying of yourself again and walking in the spirit of who you were called and made to be. And now she's has many books, a great author, but she got rid of the lie and started to actually believe the declarations that the Lord has said to her. And so it's coming from this external idea of, okay, God, to an internal realization of saying, this is who I am. When we did this podcast, I was like, no, I like to be hidden. I like to not be in the limelight of anyone because I cared what people thought. And until I was able to break intimidation and realize it has nothing to do about me, it has everything to do with whatever God wants his children to know. And until that happened, I realized it's not about me being a podcaster. It's me being able to speak out the truth. And I started declaring that over and over again. Lord, give me the ability to be bold and confident in my faith and in the words that you have for me and for others. And that suddenly clicked. And then all of a sudden it was like, okay, I am this. And you're using me in this way. And it has to go from that external to the internal and really, truly, not just in your mind, but letting your mind then understand what your heart is after. Because we're all after something. And until we realize, God, you have said this about me. This is the calling you have on my life. I am this. You believe in me. You're going to make a way. You're going to make that path very easy. That starts to come out in confidence and it starts to be lived out in what we're doing. And so I think that's first and foremost the first step of figuring out what you're called to do is understanding what has he called you by having that intimate relationship with him, spending time, even 15 minutes a day. I'll have clients go through 15 minutes a day of quiet time where you are not talking. You ask one question. What do you want me to know about myself, about what I'm called to do? What you can fill in that next little, blank. But what am I called to do? Write it down. Even if you don't believe it, write it down. Then it's taking those words and start declaring them. I am this. You just told me I am this. I am this. You just told me I am this. And so realizing then you're going from your head, your mouth, you're declaring those words, taking it in and taking those thoughts captive into your heart and making them firm, a new stronghold, I would say, a new way of thinking, a new way of speaking, a new declaration that's truth. And that would be the first aspect to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think defining, there's difference in purpose. Something I was thinking about is there's universal purpose. And that's I would say all believers, we have purpose as a community of people. And you will find people with the similar passions of purpose and maybe you'll team up with them and be a part of that. But what we're talking about today is like individual purpose. And these are things that I feel like if you're looking for it, it's kind of something we talked to. That's why identity is really important, because we're talking about like your spiritual gifts. Like, what are your gifting? Is that teaching? Is that mercy? Is that encouragement? Just certain things that you're good at, but also what you're passionate about, what burdens you, what might be like things that hurt your heart at something. Because I always say, God's going to, if you're walking close to him and knowing your identity, you're going to also, your heart's going to hurt with what his heart hurts for. So there's times where, in my past, I could even watch like a movie or listen to a song and have not a thought to it. It was just like, oh, this is good music, whatever. And now if I heard that same song, it would like sting my heart a bit, because I could just hear the brokenness or the sadness, or I don't agree with actually, putting that into my mind or heart anymore. And before, it wasn't something I cared about. So I do think there's things like that. Or even when we spoke to Jada, talking about after we spoke about like, how is God going to use you for this? Mm-hmm. Because he will turn everything for good. So sometimes that's why I said with our pain, sometimes it can find our purpose, and he can use those things to give us the burden, like that burden in our heart, because we understand the pain of walking through something to want to see change in it. And so that's also where I do think purpose can come out of. And then also just that's like also ties into just experiencing things, like when you experience people or stuff, or maybe you grew up in a household where, you could have been missionaries, or you could have doctors as parents, and you see people just being helped and have that desire to also want that too. Sometimes you could see purpose similar to your family, and sometimes it's completely opposite. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be, that's why it's important to be in tune to the Lord, because it might be opposite, and that's just as important, to go walk in obedience in that purpose than just doing what you thought you were supposed to do because everyone before you did it. Mm-hmm. So I do think it's a cool thing to break down, because it's a word that's used so much, and it's not just something that's in the church. I would say this is a general topic of, people's calling, and there's good out there that's not under the umbrella of a church, So this isn't talking specifically about that, but we are talking about how incorporating the Lord in, like, he'll give you that purpose, and that type of calling is going to drive you further than if you were striving on your own to do that same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I also would say to that, you find that there's a need that you have experienced at some point. You said during hardship or trauma or a season of life that you didn't have. So like when I started the Cradle Coach, I didn't have a mom that could help. And we could not necessarily afford at that time a full nanny to help me, or a night nurse or whatever. I don't even know if that was really even a thing.
I didn't.
Yeah.
That was a thing during that time.
And so to have that, but knowing that like, this is my need, I have to go work. And my child is not sleeping, nor was I prepared for this. Like, that was my need. But really, if I went to it, the root was I was helping another mom who did not have another mom, right? I was helping somebody who didn't feel like they had a place of support, of community. But really, my whole journey was that, right? Of that trauma, so to speak. And in it, there was a need. And so the Lord prepared me through, yes, that little season, but more so the years ahead to be able to offer an experience, a service that supported another mom. And that didn't come out of, oh, this is my calling to be a sleep consultant. That wasn't really what it was. That's what I did. But like purpose was to help another mom have support, have a place to feel heard, seen, and known in that moment. And so if I went back to all of my years, that was the line in the sand. That was like the statement over my life. Melissa, you are called to help women break free and to find their real love, to find their real calling, to find their real purpose, to know who I am. And so that's what I do. And he uses it in different ways. And so once you know what that need is, maybe in the season you're in or an experienced skill you have because you've learned the hard way, you wanted to learn and research it and you had this excitement for it and now you want to give it to others. That's what I'm saying is like, there's always this line of saying, this is what my calling is. However, it's used in different vessels. Now I'm using it with cross country. I used it at a gym. I used it doing this now, being in a podcast, like doing this with you. There's so many aspects of the Lord rewiring it in a new way. And he's like, you're my vessel. I need this same idea, the same principle, the same need to be spoken into this group of people. And this is how we're going to do it this time. And the more you understand and look back at what that line was, the more you're going to gain this understanding of what you're called to do. And that's kind of where you dig in. That's where you heal from. There's healing in that journey. And now that's now spoken into a whole new group of people who were back there, and you get to shepherd them along the way.
Yeah. And it's really cool that you bring that up, because you said something in the beginning about like, also vision, and purpose and vision kind of go hand in hand as well. And, when I was thinking about this, the Lord kept bringing up Joseph, and I made this like little diagram, you'll see it, where like every single step that the Lord, revealed to me of, he might give you a vision and a purpose and you get excited and you shout it out and say it. And it was like, he got a vision when he was a child, like a kid, and he told everyone about it. They did not like that. No surprise, because it wasn't favorable for them in their way of their family dynamic. But he went through slavery, jail time, and then finally fulfilled that purpose, that vision that the Lord gave him. And all I could think about during that is just a reminder of how often we feel this calling and how often it's not tomorrow that it happens, that we have to walk through these seasons. And I don't know why this keeps coming up when I think of Joseph the last year. It's just, I just wonder how his heart was when he was sitting in jail. Because it was years he was in jail. It wasn't like, a little quick minute. He almost had a little hope too. And then they forgot about him once again. And so I just think, did he question his purpose? Did he question his calling? Was it, him sitting in a dirty jail cell, like wanting to have sympathy on himself of, God, you told me this and it clearly is not happening. No one's even knows me. They were all gonna bow down to me, and where am I? I'm in jail. But then instead he shifted and was like, I'm gonna make the most of jail. And they respected him. The guards respected him to a point where they came in and said, oh yeah, this guy can tell you your dreams. This guy can interpret them. And he did come out of it. And all those promises, all that vision, all that purpose came through. But what along the way did he learn so that he could be in that position and have the right heart in it to see and do it? So what you're saying is really is that you went through all this really hard things to now be able to bless people in a calling, to say, you don't have to walk through all that pain. You're not alone. I see you. This is, how can I come and support you and love you and be Jesus? Because that's literally what Joseph ended up being able to do, was not get praise for himself like he might have thought it was. Oh, you're going to bow down to me. Maybe as a kid, you're like, oh, that's awesome, siblings. What's up? But he matured and spiritually matured through those years of hardship to be able to be in the right position to love, forgive, show them mercy, show them grace, and also meet their need. And so I just was so taken back by that. And I just think about our own journeys, and you might feel like you're in jail right now. You might feel like Joseph and being like, God you gave me this, and where is it? But I do think that might be something of the season you're currently in that's preparing you to be able to handle that authority, that position, that platform. And I just felt really encouraged by that, because I feel like a lot of times I've been that person. And I don't know if I've always made the most of it. I don't know if I've always turn to God and be like, you know what, I will make this jail cell, the prettiest jail cell, and respect my person and love the people and encourage them and do all those things, sometimes I want to sit in my pity and be like, okay, God, I guess I'm a joke. Like, I guess I'm a joke. That was, I lied to myself that was maybe my voice telling me that was like, I was going to do that thing. So I was just reminded by that, and that kind of story that you're explaining reminded me of that.
That's really good. I do think that a lot of times too, in the season of waiting, there's refinement, but God's not going to give you what you can't handle. And so when you're refined, you have the ability to open up your tents wider, right? That verse of open up your tents. I have so much for you. I have so much I want to do in you. And when that experience occurs and you start really understanding what your calling is and you're believing your calling, you're going to see that God starts putting people in the right places. Doors are opening, resources are had, and it might take years because just like you said, did I even realize it? Probably not. Did I realize that's really what that journey for all those years during my adolescent years and motherhood years, was that all for this? Now I see it, but he had to refine us. And that was the wilderness stage. And it was hard. Do you know how many tears I have shed for God, show up here? If he would have showed up then, I would have been a hot mess. I wouldn't have been able to handle it, but he didn't. And he's such a gentle father. He's like, no, you're not ready yet. You're not ready yet. I thought of David. My person was David. And David had this calling spoken over his life at a young age, and yet his circumstances around had nothing like that calling. He then became friends with the king's son, best friends, brothers, almost created relationships. There was hope there. Oh, cool. This is great. I see the door. I'm just going to follow you, Lord. I see it. I see you opening it. And then Saul's after him and he's hiding in a cave. And at that moment, same thing, the jail, the cave, the wilderness. What is God doing there? He's refining the heart. The posture of the heart is drawing near to his father and saying, God, take this away. I want what you want. I want all the things that you want. I just need you to change this circumstance. And he will do it until you're really ready to surrender. And I believe that's where a lot of the things hidden in the dark come to light, whether it's a sin is a sin, and we can dive into all of that. That's a whole other rabbit hole. But there is so many things that people are going through that feel so alone. And the Lord knows, and he sees all. And if you're willing to express it and bring out those little crevices of your heart saying, you told me this, God, but really I'm scared to trust you. And that was something he told me was Melissa, you still doubt me. Trust is confident hope in that I'm going to do all that I promised that I would do. I've spoken those words. I've given you prophetic words. I've given you verses to stand firm on. But do you trust me even when you don't see it at all? Mm-hmm. And that your circumstances are now worse? Do you trust me now? And if I was being honest in that moment, even this week, I'm wrestling with it. I'm wrestling with him to bless me. I'm wrestling with, actually my hip hurts in this moment. I'm wrestling with him saying, I trust you. But Lord, even in my doubt, I need you please to show up. And he's like, I need the doubt to go.
Yeah.
I need the doubt all to go. The subconscious feeling, I need it to be gone. I need that even when your mind is saying it, your heart is still holding it. And your heart is saying, yeah, but I have not seen it. Have I seen it? Maybe you'll show up, or you'll show up in a smaller version of it. If you gave me this, David was spoken that he's going to be king. Okay, well, maybe I'll just be his best friend, the king's son's best friend. That's good enough, right? Is that no, he's saying, I am giving you this word. Do you believe it? Do you come up higher to see it? Are you drawing near me so that you hear why and the steps it's going to take to get there, or why I'm doing what I'm doing now? Without that, you can't handle the capacity of what that overflow looks like. And I think sometimes that place is hard to sit in, hard to be in, hard life to live in the moment. If I'm being very honest, it's so hard. But the reward is freedom. And the reward is the presence. And you just have to get there. You just have to be. You have to be still.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to be like, I just think of peace, just having peace when you are there. Because all that stuff, like doubt, worry and stuff, isn't peaceful. But it's so funny. Bro, David, we just talked about this on Monday at that class, literally about how he had to be a shepherd and being told he was king. Like a shepherd wasn't like the most top dog in their society. It was kind of like, okay, shepherd boy, but he fought up a lion or a bear and killed a lion. And it's like those steps probably got him confidence to be like, I could take Goliath. And then he got this another high, and then he got another low. But each one, it's still a chart. It's the low is not the lowest. It's just lower than that high. And so I do think that, and same with Joseph, he probably thought he was about to get it, like all the dreams and everything he had. And then the wife lied and he got thrown in jail. So he was at this spot where I'm like, okay, I could see your promise, Lord. I could see it coming into pass. And then boom, years just sitting in jail. So I do think that sometimes, like what you're saying, that refinement, though, like how tender hearted was David. He wrote all Psalms. He was so tenderhearted. He knew how to sit with the Lord. He knew how to weep with the Lord. He knew how to beg, cry out to the Lord. He was so, in this day and age, you look back, it was like very emotional, but it was all very real emotions that at any given place, you can probably find a Psalm that you feel connected to. That's why I love Psalms. Like, I think it's just all of them are beautiful because it is a man after God's own heart, but he also wasn't perfect. And God used all his imperfections and all those hard moments to be the kind of king he needed and still allowed Jesus to come into his line. And I do think that it's easy to feel those pains and cry. I've cried so much in the hardships and questioning. And I think the beauty is that God still hears us and wants us to just come to him and cry with him. And because it's a father, like he loves us, he wants us to sit there with it. But I can't imagine, when you know something fun is going to happen for your kids and they're sitting there like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. And like, you're like, we're getting ready to go on a trip I'm surprising you on or something, like something really fun. How many times are we in that hardship being like, God, why? And he's like, well, we have to get here in order for me to give you, but you need to also trust me on that process. And it's always trust. It's always a trust thing. The doubt is a trust thing. Like even fear is a trust thing. It's like, do you trust me? It's come up so much this past week in the word I've been reading. And I know it's because he's reminding me constantly that that's my biggest fall is anytime I do something out of my own self, it's saying, I don't trust you. Anytime I worry about saying, I don't trust you. It's always that. And so when you're looking at purpose, that's why it's so important to know who you are and have that confidence, because that's a trust thing, to know when he says you're going to do this, you're like, okay, I don't know how, but I trust you and I know it's on you. And we're sitting here doing this, but we also have other callings. There have other words have been given over both of us. And it is like that whole, I've never imagined I would do that. Why me? But that's that heart and that position, because I am just saying, okay, Lord, I'll do it. He honors that and he gets to give you more purpose in that. And it's exciting, but those hard seasons bring you to a place to handle the harder things you're going to face in your purpose. Because purpose is great, but it comes with a punch to the face sometimes.
Yeah.
I got punched last week in the face, and it didn't feel great. And I questioned my purpose, but it was so quickly how the Lord was like, come to the quiet place right now. So I went into my prayer closet, and I just cried. And I just wept with the Lord, and I was just like, okay, that's out. Thank you for letting me cry with you. It's safe. And also, okay, you're reminding me this. You're speaking this into me. You're reminding me this. Okay, Lord. And I walked out of there, and I remember I felt such relief of it didn't matter anymore, the thing I was so upset about. Not that it didn't hurt, but that pain was taken away. Like the Lord was like, let me show you different lens of that pain. And it wasn't about, it was me I was looking at in the pain of the calling, when God's like, look at the problem is I want you to speak because those are the people who don't know me. So the pain you're experiencing, like it's, and I don't compare myself in this, but it's like Jesus had people hung him on a cross, and he's sitting there saying, I love you. I forgive you. They don't know what they do. And he's still, that's what the forgiveness part, all these things are so important, because if I just look at it that, I could hate those people or be mad at those people. But in reality, they don't know Jesus, and it's not about me. It has nothing to do with me. I'm just the thing that's sitting there to be the vessel. Mm-hmm. But it's also the vessel always gets beat up. Like if you look at a boat, you're hitting waves. Sometimes you take on some water. But you have to just keep going and knowing the rudder is the good Lord. He's going to send you on that. He's going to bring you to those things. He's going to push you through those waves, but he also controls all that stuff. So I do think that even though you cry a lot and you have these hard moments, you're human. It's not on you. And I think that's what it kind of comes back to, is it's not on me. So it's human for me to have a really strong breakdown of like crying and upset, and then the Lord be so gentle and kind of be like, okay, are you done? Okay, let me speak some life into you so you can get back up. But how much he says, you're my little kid. You're a little kid. You're my child. I'm going to protect you. I love you. I want what's best for you. I see this, and nothing goes without my eyes on it. And he just reminded me of that. Like, it's not like I have to defend myself either.
Right.
He's going to defend me in that. Yeah. So the purpose has, those moments, and it makes you be like, why did you have me do this? Or is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Most of the time, if you're getting that, it's probably yes.
Yeah.
If you're getting pushback, it's probably that's exactly where you're supposed to be.
Yep.
So
I agree fully. I usually find that that's usually where your calling is stemmed from, whatever that looks like, however that means. That actually just reminded me this week was it this week? Or maybe it was last week. I don't even remember anymore. But one of those days, the Lord told me that you need to love this one person in my life. And I was like, oh, he's challenging me, like that kind of person who is just everything we like walked away from in our childhood, right? Like all the baggage, all the way that this person grew up was very strong and very military-like, and there's a protocol, and there's just, discipline in a certain way, and how you speak to somebody is very strong. And every time I'm with this person, I'm like, okay, here we go. I'm bracing myself. And the Lord was like, no, I've called you to break free so they see me and they know who they are, which means they are loved. And I was like, oh, yeah. Going back to my purpose. Okay, got it. Like warned me that this was going to happen today.
Of course.
And so I walked in to this setting, and there, lo and behold, it was, like yelling and strong and you need to do this, and this. And I'm like breathing in, and I'm inviting the Lord in. And he reminded me, invite me in. Yes, okay, inviting you in. Lord, take this. And in my heart, that's what I was saying. Take this. Whatever I need to be doing, however I need to speak love into this person. Okay. So he said, tell him you love him. And I was like, nope, I'm definitely not doing that. And he's like, tell him you love him. I was like, okay. And this person's older. So I was like, it didn't feel like awkward. Like, hey, love ya. Like it just felt like he needed almost, I hate to say it like this, but a child's love, you know? And
It's like a hug with words.
yes.
Like using your words to hug somebody when they just need to be held.
Yes. And
But it's a word. The words are like God's like words
love.
of saying, I'm holding you. You don't need to,
yes.
just
So
breaks the tension.
I just had to be the vessel that day. So I go and I was like, hey, I love you. You've helped so much. Thank you so much. And he was silent. He was silent. And I just remember thinking, I said the wrong thing. I did not hear you right. I did this wrong. I did it wrong. I'm so sorry. I literally, fear came over me in a span of, I'm not kidding you, it was probably 10 seconds of silence. And all he said was, I really needed that today. I really needed that today. Thank you. That was it. That was it. He carried on. He went right back to it, like how he was. But there was something different in how he approached me. And I was like, okay, I see you, Lord. I see you. I saw that was a seed. And right now, sometimes your calling, your purpose might just be seeds of sowing into what God and who God is for that person. It might be a seed of love. It might be a seed of seeing that person, about having them feel known, about hearing their voice. Like those are seeds that God can use to capture their heart. And I just realized that's really, truly what we're doing here amongst the world, right? Like we are sowing seeds for a harvest that's very much there. And people have sown seeds ahead of us, and people will sow seeds behind us. And sometimes we want to like grow the whole tree right there. But that's not really what our calling is. Our calling is to listen to the Father. And when he tells us to move, follow. And it comes back to when I know who I am and what my calling is, then it's easy then to remind myself of this is a seed I have to sow for today. And that's it. And then carry on, move on. Maybe it draws in a conversation. Maybe it leads to another business deal. Maybe it's something more that you have for another, client one day. But for today, because that's all we're called to is for today, that was the seed I needed to sow. And although hard, it was very hard because this person is not so nice all the time. But there's power in just love. And he needed to hear that for today so that God could capture his heart for tomorrow.
Yeah, I think that's really, it's hard because we live in a world where you're going to have tough people because of the pain they went through, or they're not even believers. Some are believers and they just have things that are blocking them from, they're still holding on to agreements or pain that they've walked in and that's how they walk out their behaviors. And so being attuned into what the Lord's saying, he might not say, you're going to go do exactly this. He might just be like, just trust me today. And you run into somebody and you say the word the Lord told them. You run into this guy or you work with this guy or you talk to him and, you just say, hey, I love you. And I see you. You might work out with somebody and they're the most tough person and competitive person. And you just say, I'm going to stay next to you. And it's okay. Like, it doesn't matter. I see you. Because we all function in how we think we're supposed to be or out of our pain. And so if you miss abiding with the Lord and sitting with him and just being filled with him, you can miss sometimes the purpose of that day. It might not be purpose of life, but you might miss opportunities to have purpose for the kingdom of God. So we're not just speaking of what is your lifelong mission and starting this organization and doing it. It's a day-to-day, what is my purpose today, Lord? What have you designed me for today? And how do and being into the Holy Spirit, you'll have these moments where you say, okay, Lord, and they're talking to you and you're like, I'm getting triggered a little bit, or I'm reverting back to this. Lord, okay, I take that aside because I know this is just the darkness here. What do you want me to say? And often if you, like you said about identity, it's the same thing when it purpose. You doing actions out of your identity and knowing who you are in the Holy Spirit and And God, you will have an ability to be a part of the kingdom building and have these moments where you just say this and it's like, okay, and obey. And yes, he blesses. Yes, but how knowing that he just, that man took it and said, I needed to hear that. And you might not hear those words come out of that person. You might not see the action that you gave them. They might have come back with hate because they don't understand it, but maybe deep down they walked away with it. I went and met up this lady for Facebook Marketplace and I was in a season the Lord was like, clean out your garage. I was like, okay. And so I did. And every single interaction I had was these really weird moments of talking. This lady told me about how she got divorced, how she went to this concert. And I said, you know what? I know this might not mean much, but I'm really proud of you. I was selling her a kid trampoline. So something you can look and say, that's a meaningless Facebook meetup at CVS. But the Lord was like, sit for a second and hear her. She got divorced and she's alone and she's walking through this, and just tell her you're proud of her for going and doing something, going down to Miami by herself to go to this concert because she was so determined to do something she loved, enjoyed. She was like, didn't say anything. She messaged me later and was like, I just want you to know that meant so much to me. And I was like, you know, you can think that it's something so tedious, but the Lord will bring that moment and say, let you be a part of it. But I want my child to hear, I see her. She's not alone. And even though she did something really scary, she overcame it. And just say, and like, who, does some stranger proud of you? Like, who cares? But maybe she's never heard those words from another human. Maybe she didn't have that up, or you don't know. And she could have never messaged me, and I just had to walk away from it and it'd be whatever. But it was a beautiful interaction. I just could sense the Lord was like, don't try to rush out of it. Because it's easy to be like, here's money, here's a thing, bye. Never see you alone, never see you again. And she wrote the nicest little comment, was like, new bestie. Like, she goes, it was the best interaction. I just loved that. And I just was like, okay, God, it wasn't about cleaning out this. It was about you wanting me to have touch points outside of my home again, to realize there's a broken, hurting world that if I am willing to step out and off the boat, you will fill me with the things I might not have, or the knowledge or the words. And if I just am attuned to him and abiding in him, he'll tell me when to speak. He'll tell me when to say those things. And again, you don't know how it will it helps those people.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, that's huge. I think that, wow. Because so then you are using your ultimate calling. So that's your calling, is seeing somebody who is not normally seen, known, or heard, like not necessarily the ones that, they're almost the forgotten ones. You almost have this calling on your life that's like, you touch people who have been forgotten and allow them to have a voice to be seen. You know, how loud. And so, of course, everything has been directed against your voice, which makes sense as to why that is your like ultimate calling. And so anyone you interact with, that's how the Lord is using you to humble you, to also to speak through your voice to reach somebody else's. And so the Holy Spirit has that power to come through you to reach them. And so without that, no matter what you're doing, so you're doing this podcast, your voice is being heard, right? You're also, that was your biggest fear, but you had to break your fear in order to step into your truest calling, because you know that there's power in your voice because of what you've experienced, who you are, and what God's done through you. And so no matter what you do and how you interact, that is being used. And so there's your one-liner.
But knowing that,
but you have to
know
it.
Also, but knowing that, you also have to be prepared for that exact thing to be constantly attacked.
Yes.
And it's always when I'm talking life to people that like the enemy's like, will bring up that one thing. And
so how do you break that?
It has everything to do with just coming to the Lord and being like, I don't accept that.
Exactly.
I don't come in agreement. But it was interesting because I really lately have been really encouraged by Nate Johnson and his voice. and he lost his voice and like could not speak and wasn't sick. He knew it was an enemy attack. And if you don't follow him, is just, he has a very strong prophetic voice, but I just know he's like anointed in it. There's a lot of voices, but he's one of those people who I know the Lord's using, and the enemy hates it. So it's no surprise when he comes into certain territory, he lost his voice. But it was before that he was speaking on the power of the voice. And I knew it was the Lord speaking to me, another reminder that you will always be attacked for the one thing that I called you the most to do. And you will always find, like, the enemy's going to bring insecurity in it so that you question the confidence in it. Was I overconfident in my calling and doing that? But you're right. Like, most of the time I say the things that people need to hear or don't want to hear. And, I was encouraged with that exact word that even in that, it doesn't matter. I can't hold what another person's reactions to what the Lord's trying to work in their hearts or open their eyes to see. People aren't going to like me. And that's really hard, thing to bear some days. But if I know it's not me to bear it alone, that's the thing you have to realize in your calling. It's not on you. And the minute you allow it to be on you is the minute you're going to feel the weight of the burden on you. And that's where you have to constantly be abiding in the Lord daily and saying, okay, God, or checking your heart, checking your pride, checking the things that you're called in, because it's easy to have that Adam and Eve moment again. Did he really say that? Why can't you be like you did that work? I know people don't like hearing when, people will be like, God did all this for me. And we're like, I have all this because of God. Some people really hurt, they hate that because they're like, no, you're the one that went to school and got the degree and did it. It's not God. And it's funny how our hearts just fight this urge for self over God's presence. But it's so much, this because you walk with the Lord, you abide in it. Wait for your life to say it is all on him. It isn't on me. And I couldn't be where I'm at because I'm following after him. He's ahead of me. But we are also functioning right now we're functioning in a platform that will have more voices and opinions against it. You can have a calling that's a little bit quieter, but still life-changing. But you still get resistance. And so it is important to know your calling and have that one line and know what is a constant thing that you've always been told you're good at is usually something along it, like you said, a line. But you have to be prepared for the retaliation of what you're doing.
Of the enemy's attack. You are not up against flesh. You are up against the spirit. And so the enemy is going to do everything in his power to rob, steal, and kill your voice or your gifting for those listening. You have a gifting only you have been designed for and created for. And God has a whole plan for you, but you have to go through the refining, the cave, the jail, the wilderness to be able to remove and then use the tools he is going to teach you to fight off those lies, fight off the warfare, fight off the way the enemy will try to hinder you in stepping into what this is, because this is such a big gift. This is such a big mantle, but only you carry, right? And so it's really, that's what that wilderness is for. And sometimes it takes longer for people, but that's okay. God wants the journey. He's okay with the journey. He's okay with the steps. One of my best friends lives in my neighborhood and we do a prayer walk, and we've been doing it for a while now. I actually think since COVID, but maybe not, maybe it was longer, but we will do this prayer walk, and it's so great because we pray for our neighborhood and we pray for our kids, and we've prayed through it for our husbands and the roles that we play for our friends. And we have such a great community, but it's one of these things that we were just talking about on Monday, which we were on one, and we were talking about how even the things that we see others are called for, they have to almost walk through the refinement. They have to go through the surrender, because what you experience on the other side of that freedom, that only is in the refinement, that you get to have that freedom to then walk out the relationship between you and God. And so your identity in who God is even better. It's greater. It's freer. It's beautiful. It's the abundant life. It's what you crave. And then when you're in that, all the things that you do that felt hard because you're aligning yourself with what you are called to do, anything outside of that calling should be a no. There's a holiness to that word. No, I'm not called to do that.
Yeah.
No, I'm not called to work with that person. No, I'm not called to collaborate with that person. No, I'm not called to read that book or watch that movie. No, I'm not. You can say no. But when you're in alignment with him, the freedom that comes outside of that, when you're walking in it, is so great. Like, you enjoy it. You're like, it's life-giving for you.
Yeah.
And it's almost what you realize is so easy that you don't even know how you're getting paid sometimes to do it.
Yeah.
Right? And so when
Yeah.
you're going through, what am I called to do? What do I love to do? I always like to tell people, if you had $1 million in your account right now, okay, $1 million, it's not crazy amounts, but you have $1 million in your account right now that will last you for the next 10 years, let's say. And you get that fear or that dread is already gone because it's already paid for, right? What is it that you are doing now that you're doing for free? Like, what are the things you love to do that you aren't getting paid to do them because it's just free? It's just fun. It could be making sourdough, and you get to pray over your sourdough, and you get to gift it to somebody else and write a little card that was exactly what that person needed to hear, because you actually have a gift of words and encouragement. And now all of a sudden you're making money making sourdough. That's great. But now all of a sudden you have this gifting of encouragement as well, because that's your truest calling.
Yeah.
Right. And so whatever vessel that is used to give off that calling is really what's touching others to show them Jesus. And so that's building kingdom on earth. And that's the relationship that you have with the Lord. He wants to even show you those things. He wants to show you the things that he wants to remove out of your life, so you're walking in the fullness of his. And I think that's part of it, part of purpose.
You know, I don't want to say that we're ending, but
No. Yeah.
I have also looked up what the world says of, I found a study.
Yes, show us.
I do want to. I want to give a
us.
shout out to a person who listens to this and also appreciates that I have a very high enjoyment of finding facts out.
Yeah, you and
So
Nicole
listen,
love
no,
that.
I know. I just love understanding, because I just think it's so cool how, God created us. When he created the world, he knew this day would happen. Mm-hmm. He knew we would have the type of technology and the things that we're experiencing. It did not go without thought when he created us, So I always find it cool when things are shown in the regular life world, not spiritually speaking. That is so funny how it's, because if you look at the word of God, how important it is and why he created it. So I looked up kind of what, with purpose, and what are the research studies on purpose with people. And I found one that was really interesting, a lot obviously about mental health, but this is a report it's called On Edge, but it's from the Harvard Graduate School of Education. And it found that young adults 18 through 25 in the US reported twice the rates of anxiety and depressions as teens. Well, the study notes that the emotional challenges of young adults have many sources that are vary by culture, race, class, and many other factors. A lack of meaning, purpose, and direction was strongly associated with poor mental health. More than half of the young adults, 58%, reported that they lacked meaning or purpose in their lives in the previous month, and a half of young adults reported that their mental health was negatively influenced by not knowing what to do in my life. Importantly, the research does not explain how that connection's made. Lack of direction, purpose could contribute to anxiety, depression. Experiencing depression, anxiety could contribute to less less motivation and participation of things that used to give purpose or could be compound each other. And I thought that was really interesting, that obviously, once again, God says, you know, I know the plans I have made, I have for you, declared the Lord, plans for welfare and for good and not evil, to give you a future and a hope. Like, he gave us plans for hope. And when we come to him, we get that and receive it. And it gives us life. It gives us excitement and happiness and joy and all those things that we receive from him. And also, I found another thing, I'm not going to go into the details of it, but it talked about doing a 4-year study on people with their physical health and talking about how, you know, the risk of mortality and health behaviors and sleep problems and psychosocial outcomes, reduced risk of depression, lower loneliness. It was not associated, like they were just seeing it, how it actually improved mental health and physical health, having purpose, doing something, being like active mentally, emotionally, and physically to something that gives them life. Like you said, it's easy. It's just part of like who you are, your gifting. So you get fulfillment and excitement. It's not just clocking in somewhere and getting paid. It is literally doing and being in the hands of God. But obviously this is from Harvard. It's not some like church did this study with this, but this is really affecting the younger generation. So you could see it and you can blame it on all these other things, society, technology, all the above. But at the end of the day, what are we pouring into the youth about purpose and their purpose and finding it, and how are we doing that? And I think we can think of ourselves like 30s, 40s and be like, well, I find purpose in this and that. I have a family and stuff, but you have kids that are rising up and they're going to have friends. And it's like, how do we also pour into the next generation so that could be reversed? Find purpose and find those things. And God created us to want them. He created for our physical health to be good, to have emotional health to be good. So I do think it's really cool when I see studies that just confirm once again what God created in the Bible, and it goes hand in hand. So I thought I want to share that.
I think that's so good, because it goes back then to, once you know what God has spoken of you and you start to really perceive it as, I'm taking this identity, I'm taking this purpose, this calling on my life, you start to take action. And with action, then you walk out that identity. Like, I'm a child of God. Yes, he's called me to help set captives free and give them a purpose, a voice, an identity of who God is. Great. Now that I know that's what my calling is, guess what? I will find ways to do that in every single day. But how exciting and confident building is that for my mind and for my heart?
Yes.
And now all of a sudden you're executing that, because now you're not just perceiving it, you're doing it. And it comes from being. You know who you are. You know what your calling is. Now you're doing. And now the vision is taking place right before your eyes of saying, this is what I have for you. This is all I had for you. And you're walking that through. So I think that's huge. Oh my goodness, it's huge. But it's so important that we start speaking this life over our kids, not just by the things that they do well, but all the things that they are. Who are they? When I speak life into my kids, especially my boys, like when Nick speaks into Riley, it's different. But when I speak into the boys, there's this difference in them of like the love and nurture of a mother speaking life into them. My love, you are made to encourage. You're an encourager. You are a warrior. You love others well. You are intentional with their hearts. You make great friends.
Yes.
You're loyal. And then when Nick comes into that and uses those words to agree with what the words I've spoken, that gives them life, right? And now all of a sudden, what is our Heavenly Father speaking above all else that penetrates into their soul? And so they come out leaving our home, their refuge, knowing who they are in Christ because of this confidence of perception that's changed into action. And they can come out so much stronger. I've seen the difference. I've seen the way I used to speak into them, where it was legalistic and controlled, and it's based on behavior and it's based on achievements. I see that with my students now. When I'm just speaking life into them, all of a sudden something's changing in them. They're running more, like they're having more fun doing what they're gifted at. Yeah. But when they're not, they're held by a time, they're held by discipline, they're held by a legal structure of saying, you're not good enough yet. And really the Lord's like, you're always good enough. You don't even have to do anything and you're good enough. Being with me, you're good enough. You are enough. And that perception is what we do as mothers, as wives. We need to speak that life into our husbands. We need to speak that life into others, because once you know who you are, you have the ability to change hearts for Jesus. And that is then an action step of what you're doing. It's not striving. It's through a place of rest. But in that rest, it's knowing who you are and in that identity.
So good. And just from like, I said this to someone yesterday or 2 days ago about, I'm like, your kids are going out in the world and everybody's going to speak death over them. It's just the world we live in. It's not that people are going to not be nice and say, there are going to be people who are going to speak some life, but you are the foundation of speaking over them truth that they foundationally will walk out the door, and that's almost their version of armor walking out saying, this is who I am. And I keep reminding myself, I have definitely been critical of the negative behaviors, and something the Lord has taught me through the season of having hard was, why don't you start speaking good stuff? Like all those things you see, just start calling it out and let them be excited. And now I picked up my child from school the other day, and the teacher stopped me and was like, he is a little lover. Everyone loves him. He's so popular. He has a charisma about him. And I'm like, this is a change of conversation, because we were at a school that wasn't how they would speak about how he was with other people.
And how freeing is that that moment?
Because I know it's not fully, it's me being obedient to what God says, but it's all what God's working in my life to almost be able to extend over his life. And we are very similar people in nature, this child and me. And I see like how much God must love me then. If I could just see all those silly things about him, and just, it warms my heart to just have him, and he hugs all these girls, and I'm like, watch yourself, boy. But like, it's his love. People love him. And I want to protect all of him from being hurt by people not liking him or being jealous or whatever it might be of this little 4-year-old. But I can't. All I can do is just continue to speak life over him, pray for protection, and pray over those things. I know I have to trust the Lord's going to have him on his purpose and on his plan, because I have no idea what it's going to be. All I'm called as a parent is to lead them in the way of the Lord. And the way of the Lord is speaking life. And it half the time, one of the biggest things is speaking life over yourself and not allowing things like, I'm so dumb. You got that. You're speaking to your identity, and that's a lie. God didn't make you that way. And he's made you, to be vibrant and brilliant in his own way. And the more you say, I'm dumb, that becomes who you are. And it's something that is a rule in our household, is speaking life over who we are and what God would say we are. And it starts with parents, because the way we speak is the way our kids will start speaking about themselves, or they feel like you judge them for, is the same thing. It's just by nature, we're like that. So I think the identity and the purpose, like you said, the more you do it, the more it just like overflows out of you, and you can't help but start pointing out like good things about other people, and want them to see it too. But I think the reality is, we just want everyone to feel how we feel about ourselves with the Lord, and really stepping into that authority. And it's exciting, it's freeing. It's like, what am I going to do, Lord? What did you design me for? And him just being able to cover us and share his thoughts with us, and us hear it.
That's all good, but you got to know who you are and what you're called to do.
Yeah.
I think it's great.
Thank you for listening.
Yes,
And
thank
until
you.
next time.
All right.
All right. Bye.
Bye.